I swear that I'm trying to get back to comic books, but I don't know, every story that I read, it's either completely garbage or mid at best. And this one was a complete garbage. So this channel is my therapy, I need to talk about it. So the first story that I actually read on the last years was the John Kent Superman stories, because, well, when it got announced, everyone started to lose their shit because of the bisexual Superman. At the time, my opinion was that I didn't really care because it was a new character, and I actually read a little bit of it, but never finished it because the story was still being released, and that just does not work for me. So I ended up dropping, and I guess it was last year that I actually decided to fully read this story to actually have a good opinion, a based opinion about it, and it was mid. Mid at best. There is a video on the channel about it. But anyway, on that story, it gets mentioned that Alfred is dead. It happens on the very first issues. So that was the first time that I heard that Alfred was dead. And at the time, I just didn't care much about it because I am aware of how comic books are. So my goal was just to read the John Kent story and nothing else. And if I stopped to understand the death of Alfred, I would have to read a bunch of other stories that I wasn't really in the mood to do. I wasn't in the mood to read. So I just assumed that Alfred died of natural causes and just shrugged it off and kept reading Jonathan's story. But now curiosity got the best of me, and I actually decided to go for the story that Alfred dies, because I don't know, I just got curious about it, and it's complete garbage. I think it's even worse than Adventures of John Kent, which is another story that I read. I read that right after Son of Kal-El. There is also a video over here. There is, I don't remember the titles, but the one about Son of Kal-El, the thumbnail is Jonathan and his boyfriend kissing, and the video about Adventures of John Kent has a cat on the thumbnail. So if you want to know my opinions about it, you can go to those videos. But anyway, Adventures of John Kent is just like Injustice. And that's not what I was expecting. But anyway, this one where Alfred dies is the City of Bane. And the idea is interesting. It's like Bane manages to mind control the villains of Gotham, and well, that's the idea. He managed to control the villains, and then he gets Alfred as a hostage, and he says if any one of the BatFamily gets inside Gotham, then he'll kill Alfred. That's the idea of the story, and it's not good. Well, first of all, it's called City of Bane, but we don't actually see Bane that much, because Bane is not the one in control. The one actually in control is Thomas Wayne, Bruce's father, because, well, long story short, the timelines from Flashpoint and the main timeline got merged, and now we have Thomas Wayne's Batman in the main timeline. And what happens before City of Bane is that Thomas goes after Bane, and he gives the idea of taking control of building an army and taking control over Gotham. And Thomas is, well, while Bane is building an army, while Bane is worrying himself about controlling the villains, Thomas is the one that is taking his son Bruce and putting him away from Gotham. That's how the job was like split. Bane builds an army and takes control of Gotham and takes Alfred as hostage, while Thomas takes care of his son Bruce. Like, he kind of puts Bruce on an exile, and that's the idea. And then City of Bane starts, and the story begins. There is kind of a time skip because we never see how Bane actually took control over Gotham. The story starts and the villains are already being mind controlled by Bane. And then it's just, the story just drags by a lot of issues. It's just a bunch of issues where nothing happens. Batman actually has a plan going on, which he knows that Alfred is being taken as a hostage, and he managed to contact Alfred, and the idea is that Alfred will try to flee, and once Alfred is safe, and once Alfred is safe, he will give a sign for the rest of the BatFamily, and then Damian will enter Gotham because, well, Alfred is already safe. He's not a hostage anymore, so Damian will get inside Gotham. He will allow himself to be captured by Thomas because he knows that Thomas will not kill him, because Thomas sees Damian as his grandson, so he'll just not kill Damian. And then Damian will manage to get the rest of the BatFamily inside Gotham in safety. And then the BatFamily will fight Thomas, and then Batman will actually come inside and deal with Bane himself. The problem is that the plan does not go as they wanted. Alfred, instead of fleeing, he just sends the signal, because he knows that he won't be able to actually flee from Thomas, and so he decides to sacrifice himself so the BatFamily can get to Gotham and actually save the citizens. So that's what's going on inside Alfred's head. Like, he's gonna sacrifice himself because he cannot flee, and like he's putting Gotham citizens in first plan, I guess. But the problem is that this takes so long to happen. And nothing actually happens in the story until this point. And the story starts on issue 75, and Alfred's death only happens on issue 77. And I don't know, that isn't even enough to talk about it because nothing happens on those issues. But anyway, Alfred dies in like 3 pages. which is terrible. It's terribly done. It's terribly handled. He just like dies really fast. Bane snaps his neck, and that's just it. And then from issues 75 all the way up to 84, there is minimal progress being done. Like, Damian is able to get the rest of the BatFamily inside Gotham, but again, we don't see how that happens. Just like we don't see how Bane managed to mind control the villains. Like, we know how he was able to mind control the villains, but we don't actually see him doing it. So the same way happens with the BatFamily getting inside of Gotham. Like, we just know that Damian was able to get them there, but we don't see how that happens. Then they try to fight Thomas Wayne, but Thomas managed to defeat the entirety of the BatFamily. Well, minus Nightwing and Red Hood, because they are not there. And again, we don't really see how that happened. We just see like the beginning of it, which is Huntress. She tries to shoot Thomas, but Thomas managed to grab the arrow, and then he stabs Tim Drake, and that's it. Next page, Thomas already defeated the entirety of the BatFamily. But again, Bruce does not know that. He thinks that the BatFamily was able to get the best over Thomas, because Thomas again sends a signal to Bruce, as if he was the members of the BatFamily, because they are carrying a device to communicate with Bruce, just like the one that Alfred had. And the idea is that the BatFamily would defeat Thomas, and then they would send a signal to Bruce. So Thomas gets those devices and sends a signal, and then Bruce is like, okay, so my kids managed to defeat Thomas, so I can just get inside and actually defeat Bane and stop the mind controlling, and actually save the citizens of Gotham. But, well, again, that's not what's happening inside of Gotham. So Bruce gets inside there, he discovers that Alfred was killed, he discovers that the BatFamily didn't manage to actually defeat Thomas, and now it's up to him to do that. So he fights Bane, he defeats Bane, and then he fights Thomas, he defeats Thomas, and that's it. That's the story. That's the entirety of City of Bane. And like, most of the issues, nothing happens. There ain't even much to comment about. There is a moment where it gets revealed that that Bane didn't manage to mind control the Joker, because the Joker is actually Clayface. So Clayface, he disguises himself as the Joker, and he's actually working for Bruce as a double agent, but that also does not get any development. It's just like, oh yeah, so you know Clayface? Yeah, he's actually disguised as the Joker and he's working for me. And then they are just like, oh, okay. And then this never gets mentioned ever again. There is a lot of, how do I explain it? Things are not told in chronological order, and that also makes it that makes more harm than good to the story, especially on the last issue, because so far we don't really know why Thomas is siding with Bane. We don't know why he became like quote unquote a dictator on Gotham. We just know that that's what he's doing. I don't know if that gets explained on another issue, but because like I just read City of Bane and that's all. I gave a quick look on the previous issues, but I didn't actually read those. And that's why I know that's how I knew that Thomas was dealing with Bruce while Bane was dealing with was building an army, because that does not get explained on City of Bane. But anyway, I don't know if the reasons for Thomas to be siding with Bane is explained somewhere else. I just didn't saw it. Like the previous issue, the immediate previous issue to City of Bane, on the last pages, we see Thomas making a deal with Bane, and that's all. That's all we see. Like on the previous issues, we have Thomas putting Bruce at an exile, and then on the immediate issue before City of Bane, we see them making a deal. But that's just it. We don't see like the we don't actually see what any of them actually want. And then on the next issue is City of Bane, and the villains are already being mind controlled. So anyway, all of that to say we don't know why Thomas is siding with Bane until the very last issue of City of Bane, which we have a few flashbacks and the actual reason, which is Thomas don't want Bruce to become the Batman. So his idea is to put Bruce on an exile for Bruce to live a normal life, and that's why he takes Alfred as a hostage, because he knows Bruce won't make a move if he knows that Alfred's life is on the line. So that's the idea. But like the problem is that this only gets explained on the last issue. And I feel like there was enough room, there was enough time on the previous issues for that to be properly explained. They just decided to leave it for the last issue and to do it as flashbacks. And there is also a lot of stuff that is not told in chronological order. Like even the last, even the final fight between Bruce and Thomas, there is a lot of panels showing stuff that happens after the fight. So while we are reading the fight between, oh god, I need to sneeze. Gonna love when you have to sneeze, but nothing comes out. Anyway, so while we are seeing Bruce and Thomas fighting each other, we are also seeing a couple of panels that takes place after the fight. So we actually know that Bruce managed to defeat Thomas, because we are seeing some panels after the fight was done. And it's in the same moment, it's at the same moment that we are also seeing the flashbacks that are telling us Thomas' reasons for siding with Bane. So it's weird. I don't think like that was the best way to tell the story. Like, because there was enough issues. It's 9 entire issues for City of Bane. Like everything could have been told in chronological order, and like Thomas' reasons could have been properly developed. But instead they just decided to show like all of that just as flashbacks. And I don't know, it's just bad. And there was other stories that I wanted to read because there is, of course, the aftermath. So Alfred dies on City of Bane, and then there is a couple of other issues. There is some stuff on Nightwing Comics, and there is also a one shot fully dedicated to what happens after Alfred's death, and like how the BatFamily is actually dealing with their loss. But I'm just like, I just don't see a reason to read those because of how poorly managed Alfred's death was on City of Bane, and I'm just gonna pretend he died of natural causes. As the title of this video says. Well, I think. I'm not entirely sure how I'm gonna title this, but anyway, it's like it's like Pacific Rim. You know how the fans joke about not having a sequel to Pacific Rim, right? Because Pacific Rim Uprising is so bad that everyone just pretends that it never happened. So that's what I'm gonna do with Alfred's death. I'm gonna pretend he died of natural causes because it's just bad, and I don't think like it's worth reading. Just like out of curiosity. Like, let's go back to Son of Kal-El. I feel like if you are curious about how they handled Superman's bisexuality, I guess you could read that, but there is no reason to read all of that. You can just read, I guess it's the 5 first issues, or I don't know. It's so on the fifth issue is the kiss. So I guess Jonathan comes out on the 7th issue, maybe on the 10th. I don't remember, but you could like read up to that point. I'll make a wild guess and say you can read half of those comics. Like there is 18 issues. I think you need to read just the 9 first if you are curious about how they handled Superman bisexuality. So like if you are curious about it, you can read that. On City of Bane, I don't see that being a good enough reason because it's just that bad. Like if you're curious about it, don't even bother if like that's the only reason for you to want to read City of Bane, because it just does not pay out. But yeah, that's about it.